Ed, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. All right. Good, good. Do I have video started? No, I don't. There we go.
Look at that. Isn't this a strange?
I'm a little grainy because I'm in a dark basement. So,
That's okay.
wow, that's really quiet. I need to see if I can boost that up a bit. Wow, I got you cranked.
You can't hear me very well.
You're a little quiet, but I think I'm gonna have to just live with that.
Just have to pay attention really closely.
Yeah. Well, as long as my wife doesn't start yelling for me. Oh, speaking thereof, I probably ought to give her a notification. Yeah. Give me a sec.
Yeah, you're good. You got time.
Hey, 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 hey. All right. Okay, there.
Let me see here. See if I can make this a little bit better for you.
It's probably on my end. I probably jacked up my audio on my Mac while I was trying to get this microphone to work.
Yeah, that's it's been very interesting trying to figure out all this stuff out and like how many times I've ruined my computer just
Mm.
with the settings.
I've literally been texting with my producer, like, hey, man, this isn't working. And he was like, hold on a second. Somebody's using my MacBook. So,
Yeah.
whatever. We're without.
You're surviving. Were you guys open today?
No, actually, I had forgotten when I set this up with you that Mondays I'm trying to take off.
Oh, good.
We close on Mondays anyway. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's usually 4 places open, and right now, just one. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man, I was listening to the most recent episode with Jason, and just listen to you kind of break everything down before. It was just like,
oh,
it's
yeah.
just
That I felt like that was important because I mean, literally, dude, that was like my wife was a little unhappy with me going to Atlanta like when it was just starting because she pays attention to news in Asia a lot more than most Americans because her family's in Thailand
mm,
and she was not keen on me going to Atlanta to a Tiki conference and like literally a week and a half later everything got canceled.
yeah.
That might have been the only one that happens this year. Like we actually like got kind of lucky. It was only the second year for it in O'Haley, but um, it might be the only one. I mean, Oasis is rescheduled for the fall, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so tough to kind of figure out what's going to happen and everything like that. It's a super bummer.
Yeah,
Um,
and we were
because
lucky. I mean, I put that picture up on my Instagram feed a couple days ago of us, like me and Lee Edwards from House Alpins and Jason Alexander, all like sharing a Tiki bowl. It was like, yeah, like 2 weeks before, like you can't even come in contact with anybody. We were all sharing a drink, different times, just two
yeah,
weeks prior.
it's pretty. Obviously, it sucks just how rapidly it's changed and
Yeah.
I was planning on doing a lot more events this year. I started with Miami Run Congress, which was where I was hoping to meet you for the first time, like actually in person.
We met in Miami before.
No.
Okay.
That was my first time there. So I kind of it was funny listening to your interview with Jason because you know kind of starting the
Yep. Yep.
relationship the same way, right? Where it's just kind of
I
like,
mean, this is the first year that I've actually like bought tickets. I usually never plan on tickets to anything until the week before because at restaurants, shit goes wrong. And so this year was like, no, this is the year I'm gonna go. I'm gonna commit to it. I'm gonna do the things and canceled.
yeah,
I mean, I've been on, phones with airlines more than I ever want to be ever again because I pulled the trigger too early this year and had to cancel all of them.
yeah. We
I have tons of flight credits now.
like hooray for that. We had a cruise set for the end of the year, and we've tried to cancel it 3 times now. And on the most recent phone call, the person literally said, like during it, like, "Well, I see that you guys tried to cancel, but they actually didn't cancel it." So it was just kind of like, what the hell, man? Like, what do you think we're gonna change our mind or something? Or
I'm Matt Patrick.
Let's see. All right, so people are slowly filing, and we usually get started about 7:05, and then
Audio full on for everybody now?
yeah, I mean, usually what I'll do is I'll like, kind of just mute people, and then if they have questions or anything like that, they can unmute themselves, and then
Matt Patrick.
He's he actually added quite a bit the last time when we did
He's literally right in the middle of my fucking screen.
Yeah, so you can change that too. You can actually pin people, so you can decide who you want to stare at the whole time.
Okay. So you can put me on in the end. Yeah.
I'm deleting that.
Or you can do like a gallery view, and it'll show everybody, which is kind of cool.
I said, I think my third one, I had to do a meeting last week with the I say the landlords. I'm one of the building owners of the Inferno Room, but I have to like play chess against myself about rent and cam charges and stuff, like, because I'm different partnerships on each one. So I'm obviously advocating for myself in both, and it's very odd.
That is kind of weird.
Like 4 years ago about a point of sale system. So this is like the third time ever.
Nice. Well, I mean, 3 weeks ago, I had never used Zoom before, and now.
First time for me too. Never.
Yeah. Now I have people that are like reaching out to me, asking me questions how to use it. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm winging it just like the rest of you. So.
It's not like we're doing anything that tricky.
Well, yeah, and that's also it too, right? It's really not that kind of crazy, but people just
went down that rabbit hole of like separating everything into tracks and stuff tonight, but then I realized what time it was and needed to get on here.
Oh well, I do appreciate it, and so yeah, I mean, and usually how these goes, like people just kind of pop in and out throughout the night.
Cool.
And then I do record everything. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with all this content that I've created, but I got really fun conversations with a lot of cool people. So
right on, man. I love to see him. I'm not usually around this time of night on Mondays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays, so would definitely like to check out some of your other.
Yeah, I'll definitely send you
real
some.
Cool people have been on. You got Jim Rondo coming up too, right?
Oh, who's that? Oh yeah, Rumdahl. Yeah, they're tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, they're tomorrow night.
Okay.
I'll start tagging you and everything, Matt. So that way and then I'll make sure to definitely remind you of the one that you're on. So.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's been cool. I mean, kind of like our conversation before. It's just like it's weird how many people have just said yes. So I'm like, I think it's awesome.
What the hell else do we have to do?
Well, yeah. But still, I mean, it's cool for me, like for a lot of you guys, it's people that I admire in the industry. So when you have people that you admire be like, yeah, I want to talk to you. I'm like, oh shit. Like, I don't care if there is a pandemic. That's still cool.
I think I have a fucking podcast.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, but like, and we'll get into it. I don't want to blow everything just yet, but so we'll get it started. And as I said, people just kind of, they come and go. People remember late. They're like, oh, 15 minutes in. They're like, oh, yeah, that's right. That was going on tonight. So if you see people diving in and out, that's what it is. But so for everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Drew. I work with JVS Imports out in Sacramento, California. We're kind of like a fun little niche distributor. We sell all kinds of cool stuff, a lot of cool rums, mezcals, things like that. And, a few weeks ago when the pandemic hit and we went in the shelter in place, one of my goals to kind of stay relevant was to set up this virtual happy hour, and started with just reaching out to my friends and wanting to hang out, and then got a little bit more ambitious and reached out to people who I admired, like today's guest, and just wanted to see if people would be down to kind of maybe give us a little bit of normalcy in a world that has nothing normal about it right now. So my guest tonight has built a little empire in Indianapolis with ownership of the Siam Square, Black Market, Rook, and the Inferno Room. He's the host of one of my favorite podcasts, Shift Drink Podcast, which just released its 92nd episode with fellow Tiki file Jason Alexander from Devil's Reef. He loves heavy metal music and has a back tattoo completely dedicated to the Muppets. Ladies and
Uh,
gentlemen,
articles.
Ed Rudisell. Ed, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thanks, man. You looked that up on Indianapolis Monthly, I think, because I'm not sure that anybody else convinced me to get those back tattoo photos. And they promised me they would never get published, and then they put them right in the middle of the fucking middle spread of the magazine.
They're
You
very
have no
proud of it.
idea. You have no idea how many people I've shown that's those photos to.
Yeah, it was funny because they kind of bury the lead on it too. You know, you're reading the story and you're just kind of like, you're like, oh man, that's super weird. I wonder what that looks like. And then you just keep going through a few more paragraphs, and then there you go. You get to see the back tattoo full of all the Muppets and then a big Jim Henson right in the middle. So yeah, it was that was a fun little surprise there. But yeah, so I did do the deep dive and you know, went to page 5, 6, 7 of the Google search and just try to pull out as much as I possibly could. So I'm gonna pepper you with questions throughout it. You know, if people that are listening, if you have questions, you know, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can use the chat feature and you can send me a question if you don't want to ask yourself. And, you know, if there's a direction the conversation's going that, you know, you're like, oh no, I want to know about that, you know, just feel free to chime in. I mean, this is, you know, it's a happy hour. It's not too formal. We want to make sure it's fun for everybody and kind of get what you want out of it. But
That's kind of cool. I haven't done these yet. This is fun to see everybody.
yeah, isn't that kind of cool? So
Jim showing off his rum collection.
it's funny because like when you get all these different people, like you kind of see what like their weird flex ends up being, right? So you know, it's kind of like, so for a long time I would just do them in my kitchen, and I'd have, you know, just like the window behind me, and then I started seeing people putting more effort in, and I was like, I need to go sit out in my tiki bar and do this. So
this is actually where I usually, if I record in my, what I say the home studio is, I'm sitting at that table. So I've done several interviews of the podcast at right where I'm sitting right now.
Nice. So you're comfortable. You're ready to chat and everything like that. And actually, and it's weird because part of that research was seeing your house in like a design magazine.
Oh yeah.
And there's all kinds of pictures of you in there with that. There's also one with you and your macaw as well, which then I also learned actually went viral. Your bird did.
Yeah.
So,
she's got, like, I have people that follow me on Instagram that I get like these weirdly shitty instant messages or like private messages that are like, stop putting your private life up. We want to see more of your bird. I don't know who you are. Like, it's not her account.
and you know, for you people who don't know, Ed's bird actually went viral because it was dancing to 50 Cent's in the club.
She loves all hip hop.
And it is like, it sounds funny, and then you watch it and it's amazing. Like, it's so much better than I can even describe just what the bird does the whole time. Yeah, it's
not trained. I was listening to hip hop one day in the shower, and so the viral video, if I would have known that was going to go viral, I would have cleaned up my shower, because she's sitting on the top of my shower rod.
Right.
And you can see all the lime build up and stuff. But yeah, I was just in the shower. I got out and she was like dancing. So I shot video, and then it was like a year later, but somebody found it and it just went crazy. I started getting tagged and all this stuff. I'm like, hey, that's my bird.
That's your bird. You ended up on World Star. I mean, who would have thought, you know, a tiki bar owner from Indianapolis is on World Star. So, or at least his bird is. So,
great name too.
What was that?
What's that?
The bird's got a great name too.
Oh yeah, her name's Padma. She's named after Padma Lakshmi.
Which is awesome. That's great. All right, so you know, sidetracking. That's kind of how these things go too. So, you know, we kind of roll with it.
Happy hour.
Yeah, it's happy hour. So what I found was, you know, before you kind of started, you know, your foray into ownership and stuff, you actually spent 10 years working with Buffalo Wild Wings in pretty much every position that you can have at the B-Dubs. So with that, I mean,
except for the one that everybody expects that I had. I was never a bartender.
Oh, see, I saw like they had you listed as bar manager. Did that never was a thing?
No. Sometimes the fact checkers don't get things necessarily right.
They probably just made that assumption.
Oh, well, you know what? I was a bar manager at one place, but not at Buffalo Wild Wings. I was a cook for the first 3 months that I worked there. I literally was just trying to pay my rent. That's how I got started, like, in this business full on when I was 23. And like 3 months later, the entire management staff quit to open another location. They asked me if I wanted the job to be a shift manager. So I went from like cooking crappy, you know, chicken wings to like managing within 3 months.
You gotta love this is like one of the only industries that you can just really get to the top through attrition. And you
That was the last
know,
time I had a job doing anything else. That was it. That was when I got that promotion. That was it. That sealed the deal. I've never done anything else.
and so with that being said, I mean, 10 years is a long time to be at anywhere. Are there still things that you think about often that still apply to like what you do today? Like anything that helped you from that
Oh,
experience with Buffalo Wild Wings that you can think of right now?
specifics, not, I mean, gosh, that's a long list. But I always, I guess I'll relate it to this. I often get resumes in for the restaurants, and people, when I sit down for an interview, because our places are kind of farm to table or whatever terminology you want to use on that now, and people are very apologetic when they like put down Applebee's or Chili's or something like that, and they're like, well, I mean, but I really like good food, and like I love seeing that experience, because if you can work within that corporate framework and you can learn that system and those rules, you're a lot more you're better positioned to do well once you like get to a place that's maybe not so strict on like uniform rules or flair or whatever dumb things.
I was about to go the flair route.
Like I learned, I will never discount what I learned from Buffalo Wild Wings working for corporate restaurants. I mean, you see a lot of mistakes made, so you kind of like learn what not to do, but you also learn a very strict framework on like we had reports that had to be done every day, every week, every month, stuff that I don't think I would be able to be an owner had I not gone through that. Mind you, I still only knew about like 10% of what it was going to take to be an owner, but at least I had the 10%.
Yeah, and so that's actually a great segue because so your wife is from Thailand, and you guys met when you were in college. Is that?
Yeah. Excuse me. But that's not probably. People are probably assuming a different age because I didn't go to school until I was 25.
Yeah.
So I was 29 when I graduated from journalism school, and I met her literally like I think 6 months. Well, yeah, probably 6 months before I graduated, and then we got married the week after I graduated. So we only dated for like 5 months.
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty short timeline, and and then you guys go, and the first restaurant that you open is the Siam Square, and it's a Thai restaurant. Now, was it a situation where your wife was just like sick of shitty Thai food throughout Indianapolis, or what was the niche that needed to be scratched when you guys opened that restaurant?
It wasn't any of those things. So coming from like a shitty bullshit corporate sports bar background, we were just trying to find a bar that we could buy on contract, like just a little crappy neighborhood dive bar. But the people selling things on contract are usually kind of scumbags, not always, but they're typically trying to screw you around. And we made offers on several places, and there was another partner at that time, and we went through a lot of like negotiations on this one place in particular, and we really got screwed around a lot. And my this was like probably a year process at that point. It was from like 07 to 08 that all these negotiations were happening. And then he bailed. He got cold feet and was like, I don't think I want to do this. I don't want to be a business owner, blah, blah, blah. He bailed. So in like May of 08, I was talking to my wife, and I was like, well, what? God damn, we just lost a year. We're back, a reset. What are we going to do now? We've been spending all this time working on this. And she's like, I don't know. And so she went to work. At that time, she was working for her sister, who also has a Thai restaurant. And she was bullshitting with the cooks. And one of the cooks, who we both really admired and had known for several years, said, well, if you were ever to open a Thai restaurant, I would come with you. Like, why didn't you say that last year? So within a month, I got lucky and I found the building that we're currently in. So no, we didn't start out trying to open a Thai place at all. It was really because we had the right chef along with us. Again, both of us are and come from a management background. So, she cooks a bit now out of necessity because we don't have a staff any longer.
Right.
He's didn't come up that way, no.
Okay. All right, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I mean, that was kind of one of the harder things to find was really where how that story started, what the motivation was, and what that. So I'm glad that cleared that up. And then that rolls into your second concept, which is black market.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where I start to see this trend with you, where you just become a little bit, and at least in terms of the public eye, you become a little bit of a contrarian, right? And you want to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah,
And
exactly when it happened. But it
yeah,
was good timing for that though, because that would have been in 2010. And that was really the kind of the beginning of this like big food movement, the restaurant wave that we're seeing farm to table opening up. And we were seeing like, it was just starting in like New York, and obviously San Francisco has kind of always been there, but you started seeing it on television and it was getting pushed out more. And we didn't really have any places like that in Indianapolis. And my chef partner at the time, he's since left, actually about a year and a half ago, he left the company. But he was a regular at the Thai restaurant. I knew who he was because he was a sous chef at one of the best places in town, one of the very, very early kind of Alice Waters era. I mean, like she's opened really very early on in that whole movement, and he was the sous there. And so I knew him, we got to be friends. He pitched me over drinks one night, and I don't know, I guess I was lubricated enough. There was a longer story. I kind of already got in my mind wrapped around the idea of doing a second location just from a Vegas trip with a different chef.
yeah,
But he got a job offer somewhere else that was like a lot of money. I was like, you'll never make that as an owner. So then I was already kind of in that headspace of doing a second place at that point. So yeah, we were just like, what is nobody doing? And honestly, we were Publican in Chicago had just opened pretty recently, maybe a year or so before. And we were like, why don't we have a place like this in Indianapolis? And that's, the way we were eating, and we wanted that there. So that's kind of how the name Black Market came about. Again, I know you haven't ever talked to me in person. Everything I say has a long story behind it.
oh, I mean, I listen to your podcast, so I mean,
but Black Market, there was a lot of arguments over what to name that place. So much to the point there was meetings where things were thrown. Like,
wow.
It was just a lot of battles right off from the beginning. And so the name Black Market evolved from Black Sheep. That was where the evolution came from. In fact, we had a Black Sheep logo that we never used on anything, still floating around somewhere in my files, but that's where the name Black Market, it seemed a little less obvious, what we were trying to convey.
Yeah, and so like one of the things that you guys did, and in terms of the research, it alluded to there was conversations. It sounds like maybe there were more arguments about it, but that's the time where, and still today, I guess whiskey's really hot, but you decided to pursue rum, and and it started with a Google search of what are the best rums, and then kind of took off from there. Now I think you guys have over 100 rums at that bar, and okay.
So yeah, but we didn't open. It's funny seeing pictures from that era when we first opened in 2000. I guess it would have been, we signed the papers in 2010. We opened in 2011, but we only had a license to serve beer and wine. The licenses for hard alcohol at that time, they were going for about $40,000. We're downtown, they're highly allocated, so you pretty much just have to buy one from someone that's got one. And we couldn't afford that. And so we were like, well, we'll just be a wine bar, but none of us knew all that much about wine at the time, but we kind of put our heads down and learned as much as we could. But the following year, they opened up a bunch of new licenses. Long story short, we got one. They opened them up to try to it was right before the Super Bowl in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And so it gave us all an opportunity to grab a liquor license from the city for $1,000. So that's when we made that rum decision that you were talking about. The bourbon was too hot. You couldn't get anything. We were nobodies. We weren't going to get allocations. They would laugh at us if we asked for any special Buffalo Trace bottlings or anything like that. And Chris really hated gin. And so, yeah, we just kind of just Googled. We decided to do rums. Rum sounded sexy. It's like, it's made from sugarcane and it's from the Caribbean. That sounds fun. And just Googled best rums. And we ended up with probably the same list a lot of people get nowadays. Hopefully that's getting better on Google, but like Zacapa and El Dorado shows up and a handful of other ones. I think English Harbor was on that original list. And so there wasn't that money that we could actually get in market. It was pretty tough across the world, definitely in the United States and 100% in Indiana to get some of those good runs from distributors. And so we bought what we could and went with it. But as with anything, as you taste and taste and taste and taste, I mean, once that word got out, our distributors started coming by with like, hey, we got a rum. If you're the rum guys, you should have this on your shelf.
Right.
So we tasted and tasted and tasted and tasted. And, as with anything, the more you practice, the better you get. And so it got, that's how we kind of became the rum geeks, just because we got really accustomed to just drinking rum constantly.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely, having that firsthand experience is the way to really get to know anything. But, beyond that, because you don't have, like you said, like you don't have access to everything, you're relatively new, to the rum game as well. You're just trying to learn, like, what were some of the resources that you were using back then to educate yourself? I mean, was it books? I mean, were there, is there anything that you could really kind of go to?
It was hard. So, I mean, Google, obviously, but there wasn't a lot out there, but you still read what you could. There were definitely blogs when, blogs were more widely read. But there were definitely blogs around, we were researching what we could. There were a handful of books, but again, it's hard now to kind of remember which books we got when. I know we picked up Wayne Curtis's And a Bottle of Rum when it came out, and man, if we weren't addicted before, that really got the hooks in us.
Right. Yeah. Same.
We met Wayne shortly after that book came out, and yeah, I mean, he was super cool, very gracious, dug what we were doing, and yeah, I don't know, that I think was part of like when we felt that there was something more to it than just the spirit, like that there was, kind of this small niche fanatic community, and that was kind of an entree into it. It's like, hey man, this guy wrote a book and now like he's friends with us, this is cool. And yeah, we definitely felt a little starstruck there at the beginning when we were getting a little attention just from meeting people. But again, the biggest resource at that time was just, by that point we were Chris was a certified somm at that point, and I was much more well versed in wine than I am now. And so we knew how to taste. And, we were constantly tinkering with cocktails. So, coming at it from the tasting background, I mean, that was really what the resource that we relied on was. And I mean, with the tasting, when you start out tasting any spirit, you don't really have the vocabulary and you kind of got to figure out. And so you get online, you Google some shit and you're like, oh, this guy says it tastes like raisins and, treacle and all these things. And you're like, sure. But after your brain can kind of make those connections, that was the biggest resource in the beginning, because there just wasn't a lot out there. Now there's like, I mean, I don't know how far you can see, it's probably starting like here over are all rum books. That definitely that was not present, 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's like, I know from my own personal journey, it's always trying to find like those resources and stuff like that. And, I've been in it for as long, but it's definitely been nice to, have people like Matt, who has this ridiculous resource, place for me now where I can continue to learn and all that fun stuff. So that's cool.
Was a big one for us. I mean, that was definitely an aha moment when we went to Miami Rum Fest. What is that? What it was called back then? I think. Yeah. Anyway.
Rum Congress, I think. Was it Rum?
No, that's the new one. I think it was.
Yeah, you're right.
Rum Renaissance.
Rum Renaissance.
But yeah, I mean, it was definitely like that. The third day of that fest was just a drunk fest. But the industry day was definitely a lot of networking, and we met a lot of people very, very early on, which was super cool. That's where I met Christelle Harris, and which gave me like 6 months later, maybe a year later, was my first visit to Hampton Estate, which was, I mean, just, it's all coincidental. It's just a lot of lucky, be in the right place, be in the right time, and not being afraid to go up to somebody and be like, hey, how are you? I want to talk to you. And so being in Miami for that Rum Fest was definitely a big networking opportunity for us.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things is, even though it's definitely grown in popularity, is that a lot of these people are still really approachable, and
Mhm.
you can still reach out and you can ask those questions. Now, because you are going through so much of this, like, on the job training with it, like, do you have any guilty pleasures still today with when it comes to rum that you're like, knowing what I know now, I probably wouldn't have popped for this rum as much as I did, but now it's like I don't drink it as much, but I always have like a little soft spot in your heart for, maybe like a dosed rum, one that's maybe not as old as it says it is, all like the red
You know,
flags
the
now.
only, probably the only one that I wouldn't say it's necessarily a guilty pleasure, but I don't, I kind of give them a little bit of a pass on all the BS on the label just because it was kind of a go-to that I could get at the time when I was just learning, was Dictador. Um, because there was a whole bunch of stock in Indiana, but the distributor wasn't carrying it anymore. And so the bottles that were around were just being cleared out for dirt cheap. And so I just bought a whole bunch of them. And when I didn't want to spend or drink the stuff that I spent a lot of money on,
Yeah,
that was the bottle I'd go to. So,
interesting. Okay.
although I'll tell you what, man, I was gonna say I'll never forget the tasting notes of that, just because I drank it so much in those early days. I will never forget the aroma of and all of the intricacies. I bet I could give you 300 different aromatics on Rum Fire and Ray and Nephew now, because we're using it as sanitizer. And so I smelled all of the way the aroma works. Like, I know what it smells like 4 hours later, and when it's fresh, when you have it at the same time. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's crazy how like programmed that is in my brain now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just the constant,
We can't get Sandy at the restaurant. We're literally, I know we're off track here already, but like, with every person that comes in, these DoorDash drivers, we got signs that do not enter, but these DoorDash and Grubhub drivers are still trying to come in. And every time they touch anything or we touch a pen or whatever, literally the whole place gets
wiped
sanitized.
down. Yeah.
And so we were going through it so quickly that we couldn't get anything. And Ray and Nephew, nobody had figured out that was an option. So he just bought several cases of it. Rum Fire is in a weird space in Indiana right now, so I stopped burning through that. That was what we were using first, but
Mhm.
there's been a lag between distributors. So right now we don't have a lot.
Yeah, we sell a 150 proof neutral grain out here, and it's from Poland. And actually, one of the other guys that's on this call right now, Mark, we both of us sell a lot of it. And then when all this stuff started going down, those it was already heavy orders for the both of us, but those orders like doubled. They
Yeah.
were 5 cases and they became 10 cases. And now we're just completely out, and I probably get 3 to 5
So
text messages every day.
found that too, that like everybody was going straight for like the Everclear and all the things that immediately came to mind.
Yeah.
And us rum geeks were like, Ray and Nephew and Rum Fire, like
No,
over
Jamaican rum. Why are we not using Jamaican overproof?
and no additives, so it's not going to leave anything sticky on the counter. So yeah, like, I mean, I haven't put anything really too much on social media because I don't want, not that I don't think that Campari, should be making money right now, but we need to make sure that we can get it in Indy. So if everybody starts ordering rum just for the hell of it.
Yeah, we don't want that. We definitely don't want that. So then,
Campari will make it through this.
well, yeah, well, for sure. So the next restaurant you open up is Rook, but and this is just what I read. The original concept just wasn't working for you, and so you had an opportunity to kind of revamp it
Mhm.
and repackage it essentially, and it seems like you've kind of done that with a few different places. Is when I originally read about Black Market, it was a European gastropub, but now it's a Mexican food spot.
Right.
And
So
so you've been able to pivot in these these ways that would actually like freak out a lot of people to do. Like, where does that kind of confidence come from in making those
it's not
decisions?
confidence. Well, I mean, I always tell everybody this. People ask for like advice when they're opening a restaurant, and I always tell them one thing, like, don't fucking do it. But if they want to do it anyway, be receptive to what the restaurant wants to be, because it's never going to be what you imagine. Black Market started off in our mind as kind of like a German beer hall that had really cool, kind of charcuterie, things like that. And it became something very different. We actually, like I said, we didn't really think that we would even have a wine list. Definitely nothing nice. Year and a half later, we had 300 bottles on the list. So you kind of have to like pay attention to what the restaurant wants it to be, what itself needs to be. And then of course, you have to take what life throws at you. So when my chef at Black Market, my partner, I mean, we've been partners since the conception of it in 2010. When he left a year and a half ago, he was tired. He's medical problem, not medical. I mean, his body's kind of falling apart. His feet swell. He's got bad ankles, and it was just becoming a big problem for him to even go to work. So he took a buyout and left, and that left me in a situation where I needed to find a replacement, which I'd never had to do. One thing that you'll notice, at least up until 2 years ago, in all our places, there's a partner. And that partner is integral to the DNA of that restaurant. That's by design. So I don't want to be whatever, like Danny Meyer that has to go look for a new chef every 3 years, and then redo the whole place and make sure they color within the lines. And so when Chef left, it was interesting. I hadn't really been in that position prior. And we had a couple people that we wanted to talk to. We tested out a few people, had them come in and cook a meal for myself, my general manager, who he didn't necessarily get a vote, but I cared about his opinion, and my wife. And we would sit there and we would do, I think we did 5, we told them a minimum of 5 courses and then up to them after that. And my sous chef at Rook, actually, where we're doing kind of contemporary Filipino cuisine, he's Mexican, he's from Indiana. He's actually from a little small town in northern Indiana, but his family's Mexican. And he wanted to throw his hat into the ring. And I was a little unsure about that. I thought he was a good guy. I wasn't sure he was ready for his own kitchen. He was only 27. And I'm like, well, if you want to come over and cook a 6-course meal or whatever, that's fine. And he by far was the best. I mean, he earned that spot. He didn't get it just because he works for me already. He got it because he earned it. And that place has morphed so much since then. And that's kind of how it became the kind of contemporary Mexican. And because he was still doing the kind of European food that we were doing at the time. When he took over, we traditionally at Black Market do a summer barbecue menu. And that year that he took over, he told me he didn't want to do the summer barbecue menu because he really felt like that was the old chef's thing that was really attached to him, and he wanted to separate himself from that. And so I asked him what he wanted to do, and he's always been very interested in like regional contemporary Mexican, and that's kind of his dream restaurant. And so I'm like, well, go ahead, put together a menu, and we'll run that for 8 weeks. And I hadn't seen excitement, including myself, about the restaurant and the food there like that since probably 2013, 2014. And we had a meeting. I'm like, just don't stop. This is what we do now. It made sense. It's what he was. I was trying to put, a square peg into a round hole. Again, the restaurant telling me what it wanted to be, and I wasn't being receptive. So luckily, I was receptive in enough time to make sure that, we didn't kill the place. But yeah, I think he's doing some of the best food in the state, to be honest. I know I'm biased, but I'm really, really excited about what he's doing.
Nice.
We're going to talk tomorrow. He doesn't know this yet, but we're going to have a conversation tomorrow about him taking an ownership role there with me. But again, you guys know that before he does.
So everyone, don't put that as your Facebook status. That's basically what we're saying. Just
surprise us,
and then maybe say it this Friday or something as a congratulations. So speaking of partners, you eventually start conceptualizing, your Tiki bar with Chris Coy. Mm-hmm. And I think I've heard in interviews with you before where you kind of came into Tiki through the rum route, and that's how I came into it as well. I fell in love with rum, and then that just kind of led me through a series of different situations into getting into Tiki. and I had a very specific moment that it clicked for me. Was there any bar that you went to, or was there like an event that you went to that kind of made that thing click, or was it just kind of like was it a byproduct of all this research that you were doing with rum that you're kind of like, oh, what's tiki, and then go from there?
It's hard to remember exactly. And I kind of addressed this on the AMA. Somebody had asked that question that I did a couple weeks ago. I don't really, I mean, there's some old school places in Indy that, like, there's an old place that's been around since the 60s, like one of the old Chinese places, Lotus Garden, that still like does the tiki menu, but they've been picked over by Tiki Files, in the early 2000s when people realized that they had like rare vintage mugs and offered the bartenders there, money for them. So they're doing the pre-mixed, kind of shitty drinks, but you go get the lo mein and all that. But I don't really recall going into. I never went. Honestly, a month ago was the first time I was ever at a Trader Vic's. Like, that was a really special moment for me. I mean, Mai Tai is like my favorite drink ever, and
Yeah.
so. But no, I didn't get to go to any of those like places that have been around a long time. So in this kind of new wave of tiki, I don't really recall. Probably Three Dots and a Dash in Chicago, like when it first opened under Paul McGee, or not under, but I mean when he was still a partner there. Maybe that wasn't the first, but that's the first that I really remember.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that would have to be it. But I mean, it was the community, I think, that drew us in more than maybe necessarily going into one place. And so, I mean, Chris, like I said, I came to it from the cocktails. Chris did as well, but he was also like, he's a vinyl collector. So he has, like 800 Exotica and Hawaiian music records and all these things. So he was kind of at a different angle, already kind of superficially involved in the things that like are most often associated with Tiki Geeks.
Nice. And so, and I haven't been yet, but it's definitely on the bucket list to make it out to the Inferno Room. And I think like one of the cool stories was it kind of started as a pop-up, and you were just talking about your shitty air conditioner at Black Market. Is like, it's going to be like an Inferno in here. Let's just do this pop-up, and then that kind of turned into something bigger, which is a whole bar, which is interesting because one of our first guests, Buddy, who's actually on this chat as well, I mean, his tiki bar started as a pop-up as well.
Yeah.
And it just grew.
A way to combat that air conditioner situation. We had done an event with Martin Kate. We were into the tiki thing, we were into the drinks, but we never really thought about it as a full location yet, because this was a time when it was still like pulling teeth to get a bartender to make you anything other than like their riff on an old fashioned or a Manhattan. Everybody had to be like, here's my Negroni riff. It's bitter and boozy, and I'll never put juice or flowers in anything. And so it wasn't the right time. We were into it. And Chris had been in my ear for years. Like, come on, let's do a place. Let's do a place. I'm like, I just don't think it's time yet, And then you started kind of slowly seeing like the younger hipster bartenders like being more comfortable wearing like Aloha shirts to work, even though they were like small and painted on. But it was like, okay, well, there's a shift. You could start seeing Mai Tais or Missionary's Downfall at a couple places, and it's like, okay. And then we did that. Like I said, the air conditioner wouldn't keep up at Black Market, so that's what I told Chris. Like, get all that shit out of the basement. Why don't we just like kind of try to own it? Like, it's gonna be hot in here, but it's tropical. Come fucking have tropical drinks. And we were so damn busy that whole weekend, and it was like 87, 88 degrees in our dining room, and it was stuffy, and we were busier than we had ever been. And after the end of the first night, I called my wife, and she was actually over at Rook with our bar manager, Eli Sanchez, at the time. And she called me, she's like, hey, I think we should do like a tiki place. I was just sitting here talking with Eli, and I'm like, okay. Like, we both had kind of this idea at the same time in two separate locations, a little synchronicity. So I don't know. I just took that as a sign that maybe it was the time.
Yeah, the tiki gods were talking to you. It's just kind of like, here you go. And so, a lot of people that have been to Inferno, they talk about the decor and how it has such a different look than a lot of other tiki bars that are out there. And it's very like heavily influenced by like Papua New Guinea. And one of the things that I had heard is that actually a huge part of your collection came from a museum.
No,
And
not a museum. It came from a guy that was a collector. Um,
but it's like legit stuff.
it is legit stuff, and it's old. He lived in New Guinea between, oh gosh, I forget the years now. I think it was 71 to 85, and had kind of amassed this giant collection of stuff. Him and his brother kind of had a side business trying to sell this stuff to Tiki Files, and I didn't meet him in those times. I heard that him and his brother were kind of assholes and really wanted like insane amounts of money for the collections, for the pieces. But he ended up dying relatively young. He was in his 60s, and his brother didn't really want to continue on and was just trying to clear all the shit out. And so I didn't know about this. Actually, one of our bartenders at Inferno knew about it. He told Chris. Chris told me. And the funny thing is that we almost didn't even do it. Chris was at Black Market at the time. He had to close on Saturday night, which meant, a 2 a.m. out time. And he was supposed to meet the guy at 10 a.m., about an hour and a half outside of Indianapolis. And he was going to just skip it. He didn't even respond to the guy's email. And so at the last minute, he decides to go, shoots me a text like, hey, you want to come with me? I said, sure, fuck it. So we just rode down outside of Bloomington where Indiana University is. It's a little town outside of there. And the guy just had a barn full of shit. And we started like, this is amazing. We need this. Like, how much you want for this? And he'd be like, $90. Like, all right. Well, you got like 20 of them. All right, 90 times 20. Okay, set those to the side. How much for this? And we started doing the math and we're like, man, we are up to a lot of money at this point. And so my wife, I don't know if you know any Thai people, but negotiation is an Olympic sport in Thailand. And like you can't even get a meal on the street without negotiating how much you're gonna pay for it. And so I asked the guy, I'm like, would you sell it all? Would you like just do the whole estate for, one lot sum? And he said, I would entertain that. And so we were like, all right, hey, go get us a good price. and we didn't hear I heard the initial price, and it was many thousands of dollars more than what we ended up paying. And then I just heard her say, are you fucking crazy? And that was when we walked away, and we walked out with 450 pieces of native work. So,
oh my God.
yeah.
So, and I know, like, you guys have, I think I heard, is it 5,000 square feet for the restaurant?
Well, actually, you know what? That's funny you say that. We're expanding right now. So we will be up to 5,000 square feet or close to it, 4,700. Right now we're at 3,700. We're adding 1,000 square feet.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean,
so like a lot of bars don't have a kitchen. We have a full kitchen. That's part of Indiana state law. You have to have food if you're serving alcohol, and because of the reputation that the other 3 restaurants have, we felt that it was important to not phone it in.
Right. Yeah, to continue that quality. I mean, for sure. So, with Tiki comes a lot of expectations, especially from your Tiki Files. You got to make sure you have X, Y, and Z cocktails and everything like that. And I mean, your face says it all. I'm totally with you on that. Your menu is really interesting because you have your classics. There's a couple riffs on it. Then you have your house potions and stuff. Like, when it comes to making these new cocktails that fit within the Tiki profile, because you're trying to put your own stamp on it as well, while kind of showing respect to the classics. I mean, what are the things that kind of go into that for you? Like, what are you trying to make sure that you kind of hit when you're creating some of these new cocktails?
We're usually trying to hit a something that we find missing in the menu, or a flavor profile that we feel is underrepresented. It's not, we don't build it around product the smart way. We don't say we need to sell more, Don Q, so let's make a Puerto Rican rum drink. It's usually from something that's missing on the menu. Maybe we don't have any stirred drinks that people ask for. I mean, that's something that we had to address when we put the El Presidente on the menu. We were having a lot of people asking for, something that was up and stirred, and we didn't really have anything to meet that. It was on the menu anyway. So it usually starts from a flavor profile. That's the one thing I really like about Tiki, is that I find that most often in craft cocktail bars now, most places are using the kind of like the cocktail families and the template, right? That's set out by like the legends, Gary Regan and all those that have written books. Like you kind of switch out your syrup. Maybe you split that to 2 different syrups, but you're still kind of using maybe this 2-1-1 spec. Am I making sense? I don't know who listens to this. Are we all bartenders? I don't know. Anyway, like 2 parts
We're
to
here
1
for
part.
it. We're here. Just keep it going, baby. It sounds
But
great.
whatever, like, and so that's a very common way of like just kind of making your own drink, right? I mean, look back at Don Beach, Trader Vic, you swap out a syrup, boom, you have a new drink. And so that's pretty common in craft cocktails now and in building new drinks and starting to kind of riff on things. But there's so much more, I think, flexibility in Tiki, right? Like there isn't like, oh, well, this is a zombie spec, but I've subbed out the syrup, I mean, it's already got a like insane amount of ingredients in it. And so there's no real reason to kind of hold yourself to like, well, this will be easy because it has the exact same spec as a zombie, but you just switched out 2 ingredients. So you can really start from the ground up, and we don't hold ourselves to kind of a normal spec. There are weird measurements on some of our drinks because if it makes sense, it makes sense. And when the drink tastes right, it tastes right. I'm lucky that Chris and I share a palate. And so we have very, very few disagreements over drinks. When we think it's not right, we usually both agree it's not right. There've only been a couple of times where we've disagreed that something was ready for the menu.
And I know one thing that you've talked about on your podcast a lot is just trying to get certain rums into Indianapolis. Has there been any rums that are out there still that you'd love to have at your bar that you just haven't been able to get?
Yeah, any of the Velier stuff.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, well, whatever. That's a whole side story. But we're not a major market, and that's an issue. And not only are we not a major market, but I mean, we're the primary buyer. I'm privy to information that I probably shouldn't have from importers for the state of Indiana. Would just become friends through the podcast or through business. And oftentimes I get phone calls that kind of circumvent the distributor, and I get the numbers of how much is being sold in the state. And I know how much we buy in the state. And in a lot of cases, it's 95% of a product. And so that means they really, a new product really, unless they can sell with us, they don't, or like get major placement on our menu. Maybe it doesn't make sense to come into Indiana if they don't have, big menu placement. And so it can be tricky. We've been instrumental in bringing a couple of products into Indiana. Rumfire, I begged for years. I made the introduction so that we could get it. That was before Nick Ferris had it. That was still when it was at ACO. But yeah, it's still a trick because we aren't a big market. And if we're going to be the biggest buyers in that market, we really feel like it's a commitment for us to like buy whatever, they want to sell. If they're trying to aim for a certain number and we're the only ones left buying it, that sucks. Hey, Chris Franca.
What's up?
What's on, bud?
It's so funny that Chris just got on the call, and the reason being is because in the next question I actually mentioned his bar. So that's just hilarious. So you also feature other bars on your menu, like the guys from the Green Zone. So what is? Oh, look at that! And even Petrix rocking the shirt too. Chris, we're gonna have you as a guest on here, man. I mean, you obviously already have a built-in following. So when you feature, so you have 4 different bars that are featured on your menu right now. Like, what's your thought process behind that? Like, what were you?
We did it at Black Market is where it started, and the category was always called plundered. It's just a fun word to say, but we always asked the permission of the original bartenders. And back then, Black Market, nobody gave us the time of day, and so we would just have to reverse engineer people's drinks. And then just put stolen from, and that's where we got the stolen from terminology on the menu because we didn't have permission. So that way, at least we were giving a nod to who we took it from, and if they took issue with it, I mean, I guess they could call us and tell us to take it off. But we also, started putting drinks on from friends. Like, you know, it was just fun to kind of rep friends' bars on the menu. And that was something that was always, we felt it was fun. And it's also that kind of like that communal nature of the business. It's a tight circle. Everybody knows everybody. And, you know, that's how classics became classics, right? Like somebody jacked a Mai Tai and put it on their menu. Somebody jacked a zombie and put it on the menu. So, you know, it's a way to kind of spread the knowledge of not only friends' businesses. I've sent several people to Chris's bar in DC, and you know, but not only that, but you know, get the word out. Like if you can't go to DC and you can't have his drink, you know, hey, you got an opportunity to try it here. And so, and there also sometimes they're just drinks that we really fucking love. That Three Dots Aloha Felicia, it's a guilty pleasure, man. It's so good.
Yeah, and so, you know, with that being the case, and actually, part of your conversation that you had with Jason on your most recent podcast was, you know, Jason just sending you spec sheets on everything that he had done, which I thought was insane that he would just be that open about it. Now, he did throw in the caveat that he's like, hey, you know, I do it for other bar owners. I don't just send it to everybody.
Yeah, he's very open about it. It's funny. I didn't realize, so I don't usually listen to my episodes other than one time after recording because I still hate the sound of my own voice. And
Not the Beach Bumberry episode.
And so I'll go back through. Yeah, I definitely don't listen to that one.
That was a rough one. That was definitely a rough one.
The last time I had Mai Tais on the show while I was recording was that episode. This is the first time since then. I'm being careful now. But the shit, where do we leave? Oh yeah, Jason. And so that golden shellback, I guess, is going to make it onto a menu finally. But that was one of the drinks that we put on the menu from him. God, a long time ago. It's now been like revamped numerous times, but it's a damn good drink. I see Matt Petrick's on here. He's kind of was Jason's archivist, at least for the time he was in Seattle. Maybe he still is. But yeah, when Devil's Reef opened, I asked Jason for his new and most recent spec of the golden shellback. And he literally sent me the spec for every drink he'd ever made for Tacoma Cabana and for Devil's Reef in like 2 different spreadsheets. I'm like, wow, okay, cool, thanks, you know.
You know, I have like 5 shellback recipes in my one.
I think I've got all 5 now.
That's pretty awesome. So
Lost Spirits rum to make the original.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's right. It did have Lost Spirits in there.
Well, wow. I that was the Polynesian.
Yeah, the Poly. Yeah, he also did a Polynesian paralysis with that one.
All right. Well, I sell his stuff here in California, so you know we'll make some calls and see what we can come up with. I know Buddy has some of it because we actually drank it probably about a month ago together, and that was fun I hadn't seen that bottle in forever, so. It was
like
really
you and I
cool.
were talking, it was funny with Jason. Like I've known Jason for a long time now, but I had never met him until we were in Atlanta. Like we talked over the phone, we've chatted, we've shared recipes, but we'd actually never met in person. He was shorter than I thought he was.
It's a weird dynamic that I think we kind of have, and it's a lot of what you just talked about with the whole menu thing is that this is a really close-knit community, just the industry in general. But then when you start getting into like these sub communities, whether it's like rum, agave, Scotch whiskey, whatever the case may be, like, you like the same thing. So you want to talk about that stuff. And that was, a big motivator for me to do this virtual happy hour. And when I kind of got a little bit of confidence, that's like when I reached out to you and then Matt came to one of them and I was like, shit, well, he came and listened to one, maybe he'll be a guest on one, and that's just kind of what like my thought process has been. And people have been really cool about it.
Like after having done this for a while, like, back in those early years, everybody was just friends because you didn't have a choice. I mean, like it wasn't like you didn't have a choice, but like it was a small community and everybody stuck together. And obviously we've seen a lot of fragmentation of that community over the years, but it's in a positive way as well. Like people have kind of like got shared interests and they're varied, and it's kind of fun to see like who clicked, and kind of it got really close with each other, and it's just, I find that real interesting.
Yeah, I definitely noticed it when I was at Rum Congress this year, is that, when when you were at different events, you were kind of able to really connect with people and stuff like that. But then when we all came together for the actual tasting, like that's when the cliques formed,
Right.
and you were just kind of like, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't get into that now. Like we had a really great conversation the other day. I'm going to leave it at that, like that was kind of my thing. It was cool though. I really, really enjoyed it. And speaking of those, in this, what, you could be considered a pretty short amount of time, like you've become a go-to person when it comes to rum for a lot of people and stuff like that. And when you go to these events, people want you to talk, and it's, probably a combination of the restaurants that you own, and then of course the podcast, and, putting yourself, out there. Is there anything that like surprises you about the Tiki community or the rum community now that you kind of see pop up when you go to these different events or anything like that?
I guess the thing that's most surprising, and this is, I swear I'm not trying to be like overly sanitized answer to this. It's like, what's your greatest weakness? But no, I think that it's because it's still a family. There's a lot of fights and shit going on in the rum community right now, but I don't know, for the most part, everybody still, gets along and realizes that it's still a pretty tiny niche community, regardless of your opinions within our community. But we're still account for like this much of like the spirits business. So, there's still a tie that binds regardless of your opinions on different things. So, I mean, Tiki Files, that's why I laughed earlier. It's like Tiki Files. Yeah, you're immediately, as soon as you open a Tiki bar, like there's going to be 7 guys telling you how you fucked it up.
Right.
So, but you got to get used to it. It sucks to hear it, but we were ready for it. We had warnings from people like, oh, they're going to tear you down the first day. What was funny, and this is off topic, but on the Inferno Room, it was funny when we built that place, we thought we were going to be the modern, like, we'll give our modern take, and we were going to open one of these kind of modern tiki bars. We don't have to do it the same old way. Like all the Tiki Files say, you have to have this, or it's not Tiki, and it has to be this way, or it's not Tiki, and it has to be like this. And we were like, we're going to do it our own way. Fuck that. This is, whatever. We're heavy metal guys. We're going to do it our own way. And then like 2 months into the build out, I looked up and I was like, dude, we just built a fucking Trader Vic's. Like we're traditionalists. We didn't know it at the time. But after we started building, we're like, when the decision times would come, it's like, should we put this here or should we not? And like, well, fuck, dude, there's no way Trader Vic would have done that. And like, then don't do it. And like, shit, when did this happen? When did we become traditionalists? But I guess it was in there. We didn't know it. I mean, I'm still not going to like go yell at somebody for having a Stormtrooper Tiki mug, but I haven't gone that deep.
Yeah, that whole part of it is always gets a pretty hard eye roll out of me. Like when you see that being like, when people have to, yeah, like, Disney's not Tiki or whatever, it's just like, okay, well, whatever you guys say. Now I think one of the most interesting things about you, and a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that I'm an avid listener, of the podcast and stuff too, is that you just seem so much more well-rounded than a lot of like your like I guess just like Tiki people in general, where it just kind of seems like there's one lane and they're like, I'm a Tiki guy, and you're like no, like I'm also a metal guy, and I'm this and I'm that, and I have all these different things that you're into. And so with that being said, and I know music is extremely important to you, I know that music is extremely important to people in the Tiki community. So is there room in this world for a Martin Denny Slayer mashup?
I mean, yeah, there's a room in this world for a Slayer anything mashup, man. I mean, if you can do Slayer and George Michael, you can certainly do Martin Denny. I don't know, it's gonna be tricky, but we'll send somebody, a talented soul out there to do it.
Well, I just, I thought like that kind of perfect matching. I know, here in my hometown Tiki bar, the Jungle Bird, they do metal Sundays, and it's just the best, right? And
there's another good example of us like not realizing how traditionalist we were. Is you will never hear non-surf or non-exotica in our place ever. You just won't.
So
it drives me fucking crazy when I go to a Tiki bar and I hear rock music or like popular music or dance music, and I hear it a lot in a lot of different places, and I get it. Like Three Dots does that on the weekends, and I'm not throwing them under the bus. Like Kevin is amazing, and we've had this conversation. In fact, when he was on the show, I think we might have talked about it while he was on the show. But if you've ever been to Three Dots and a Dash in Chicago on a weekend, and you see how much money they make hand over fist, and that's not like Kevin's Bar, right? Like it's still a major restaurant group that owns that.
Mhm.
I would play fucking whatever anybody asked for if I was making the kind of money they make on a weekend. Like
Yeah.
they make like 800 cocktails in one night on a weekend night. That's insane.
Yeah, that's
so,
pretty
like,
nuts.
I can shit on it coming from the guy that's like doesn't have that kind of sales on a weekend. But if it came to that decision, I think it would probably, if you can keep the business. So like what Kevin has told me in the past, it's like, those kind of days, you make the negotiation with your sales, right? You do that on the weekends and you do the big numbers. And then during the week, you can hear Exotica and you can hear all that stuff during the week. And you get all the fun, rare rums that he gets pretty much carte blanche to bring in because it's such a busy place. So, there's that trade-off, and I think it's okay. But knowing that we were never going to be in that situation, being in like that third tier market, that, we just made that decision early on that like, in that kind of environment on a weekend when everybody it's the see and be seen kind of scene. I don't think anybody's really listening to the music anyway. So what does it matter if you're playing surf or Exotica or dance or whatever, because they're there to be with their friends and party and hang out, not necessarily anything else.
Yeah, and I with the Jungle Bird one, so it's called Sabbath Sunday, and
awesome.
and it was great because and I'm just going to speak on behalf of Buddy here because it's a mutual friend of ours that started it, and they only do it Sunday night, right? And it was a slow shift, and it was a way for the bartender to kind of make that shift his own, right? So, from 9 o'clock till close, they play metal music on Sunday night. That's it, right?
Cool.
And it was really funny to kind of see some of those Tiki files get, upset about it. And, my response was always like, hey, if it gets a couple extra dollars, through the door, and then that just keeps them open, Monday through Saturday, I'm all for it, so.
That's the thing, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we still have to be able to pay the bills. And as much as we'd like to stand on our pedestal and say that we will never do X, Y, and Z, at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to pay all the people that work for us and to make sure they can pay their bills and that we can pay ours. And so, I take that back. I guess on Tuesdays we play, like reggae and stuff because we have our Tuesdays is our Jamaican day. We do Jamaican patties and all of our Jamaican rums are on special, like all top shelf pours and daiquiris and stuff. Anything made with Jamaican rums on special. But, it's a balance. It's always a balance, right? I mean, you can stand on principle on some of those things, but that's where like I said in the beginning, you've got to listen to what the restaurant's telling you. You don't want to go out of business because you stood your high ground. So
Right. Yeah.
luckily we haven't been in that situation where we've had to make those decisions yet.
Totally. So, I think we got a lot of the Tiki talk in and stuff like that. And one thing that we talked about, briefly before everyone jumped on the call was, the intro to your show this past week is just talking about some of the sacrifices that you've had to make and some of the decisions you've had to make as a restaurant owner. And I just and I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about that, and then if there was a message that you could deliver to everybody here of like what we need to do as both consumers and industry people alike, like what are the ways that we can try to help restaurants, like people that are in your position that you have, like staff that you're responsible for, and stuff like that. So I just wondered if you could just talk a little bit about that, and just kind of in the face of the pandemic and everything.
I mean, I wish there was an answer to that. I know I can speak. Chris and I have actually talked about this privately, and we've made decisions in the last month that I would have never thought we would have to make. From day one, I always promised my staff I would never let anybody off ever. Or they would never have to worry about cashing their paycheck, and now you have to kind of reevaluate everything, and it sucks. And as far as like, I think maybe I addressed it, maybe I didn't. Again, I went kind of on a rant on the introduction, and I didn't listen to it a second time on the last episode, so I'm not sure what I said.
Well,
But
okay.
no, like there's no, I don't think there's a clear way for anybody to help us now other than the Fed. You know, like we don't get me wrong, like the help that's coming is helpful. Like we appreciate it. You know, like online sales, gift cards, all those things help. But we're starting to get into numbers now that no one individual or group of individuals is gonna be able to help with. What we need is we need a voice, and we need people making fucking noise about it. We need actual noise, because I see daily from, like I said, our Thai restaurant's still open. We're still doing curbside, and I'm getting a lot of people, very well-meaning people, kind of being not really realizing how insensitive they are when they're making comments. We're getting people like, "Hey, how's business? It looks like you're real busy. That's awesome. I'm glad." Like we laid 65 people off last week or last month. Like, you know, we're not busy. We're barely keeping the lights on, and we wouldn't be at work if we didn't feel like we had to be. If we felt like there was help coming, I wouldn't be there. I feel really safe in my home. You know, like my wife and I are very OCD about sanitation and cleanliness on any given week. And so definitely during this. So like, I feel good at home, but I'm not sure that the help is coming. And I'm not sure there's anybody really advocating for us. And what I said about the guests, the well-meaning guests, is like, they aren't aware for the most part of what we're really going through in the restaurant business, because we have a lot of guests from Salesforce. We have a lot of guests from Eli Lilly and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. So those are three really big employers in Indianapolis that constitute a lot of our client base, because they take up so much of the city. And they're all still being paid. You know, every time this temperature goes up to 70 degrees in Indy, which has been about 4 or 5 times now since the lockdown, or whatever you want to call it, shelter in place. And it's like a fucking party. I mean, we live in one of the arts districts, where our businesses are in, you know, Fountain Square, which is kind of an arts district in Indy. And there's just massive groups of people, and they're acting like they're on a vacation. And I mean, we're sitting inside just like suffering, you know. We're there because we have to be, because we don't even know if we're going to have a business next month. We don't know if we're going to be able to reopen Rook. And we don't know if we're going to be able to open Black Market. And I don't know, man. Maybe I take it personally, and it does weigh on me. But it's like, when people treat this like like they're on vacation, or like, "Oh, I'm so bored. I've watched everything on Netflix." I'm like, man, that must be fucking nice.
Yeah.
Because this isn't fun for us. I spend every waking hour that I have either working or trying to figure out how I can keep us afloat once we get out of this. And so, I mean, I hate government forms, you know. I mean, I think everybody does, right? Like, you have to go through paperwork to get loans, and like, is it worth it? And you have to guess the future. You know, are we going to make enough money to pay this back? You know, the way things are kind of set up now on the PPP is not ideal for a lot of us. You know, our payroll in our restaurants isn't our primary cost. You know, and so dedicating 75% to our payroll, that's hard. I mean, we can just shovel it out, but then we're right back to where we started. So
Right.
What is that?
Yeah, and that's basically what I kind of wanted you to touch on again, because, you know, I think that's important for people to hear, and like the more you know, ways that we can get that message out, because I definitely feel a similar way. I was driving around yesterday, because it turns out that's the only thing that'll make my 2-year-old go to sleep, is driving around the car now, which is great because she actually falls asleep. But, you know, driving through some recreational areas and just seeing so many people out, it was just like, what the fuck, man, you know? And you know, we still have business going, like I'm able to sell to liquor stores and stuff like that, but, you know, I lost 70% of my business as well. And right. It's just not sustainable for a long time. And being in California with prices being what they are, it's just, you know, the clock's ticking for sure. So
I don't think that there's going to be a real wake up moment until people that have like these great jobs run to the end of the line. Like, my sister's in that boat, right? She's been stuck at home. She lives in Orlando, and she works for Disney, because apparently there's only like a 2-year limit of living in Orlando before you finally work for Disney. But she got the call that like, yeah, starting next week, she's done like unpaid. She has a job when she comes back, but she's furloughed until further notice. And like up to this point, she's still been drawing a paycheck and working from home. But when working from home isn't feasible any longer, and it starts to hurt everybody outside the hospitality industry, and that's when we'll start seeing everybody cry foul when we've already been dealing with it for a month.
Right. Totally. There was a question from Jim, and he asked, does the extension to the loan/grant program to PayPal and Intuit as handlers make a difference? Does that make sense to you? I'm not familiar with those.
I heard Mnuchin on C-SPAN today, or CNBC today, talk about they had extended the PPP to PayPal, Intuit, and one other company to distribute the funds and to be able to process the loans quicker. I didn't know if you'd heard about that or if it made any difference.
I hadn't, and it wouldn't make a difference with us. We got applied. Luckily, well, we did get kind of jacked around, not as hard as Chris did. But the day, so we've been working with a bank that carries one of our loans with applying for the PPP for all the restaurants. And she said, you know, we're only working with existing clients, which is good. And one of my business partners that does property development, he has a lot of business with that bank. And then when the day rolled around, they said, oh, well, you have to have business with us. You have to have a deposit account with us, not a loan. Loans didn't count. You had to have a deposit account with them to even to be able to apply. And it had to be for each individual LLC. So we had to pivot real fast. We were lucky that all of our other banks were willing to work with us pretty quickly. Again, Chris has got a pretty relevant story when it comes to that with Wells Fargo. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, Wells Fargo.
Yeah. And
yeah, I got my third identical email today from them saying that we're still not taking applications.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
That's
email
what people are like picking up on. Like this, I don't know. Again, it's the like, hey, we're off for a month. Let's go party and hang out. And like, it's a little hurtful. You know, I try to like brush it off, but like going from like, hey, we're fine 2 months ago to like, you know, are we going to be open again? That sucks. I mean, it beyond sucks. Like that's our livelihood. Not to mention, you know, winter time's rough for all restaurants and bars. You know, you come out of January, which is the shittiest month, and you're ready. You get a little bit of a boost in February because of Valentine's and just people, the weather's starting to turn a little bit. March rolls, and that's supposed to be when the accounts start to get, you know, filled back up, and then we shut down. So all the things that we were gambling on. I mean, I've said this since the beginning, and I'm not trying to speak for Chris or anybody else on here that owns a restaurant or bar, but I've said at least locally, anybody that says their accounts are in the black are lying because they're not. Mine aren't. We're in the red across the board. And like, I can't pay bills. So, you know, there has to be something happen because if not, this country isn't going to have restaurants and bars. We are in an industry where in the best case scenario, you know, we're gambling next month's money on, or next week's money on bills today. But right now we're looking at a month, you know, like, are we going to be able to do this in a month? And so it's the equivalent of living paycheck to paycheck. And that just went away.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, you know, I really hope that there'll be some sort of, you know, stimulation that comes out, some second rounds of stuff, because it doesn't seem like this is going to end anytime soon. And
I don't like that's the other side, right? Like it feels really fucking selfish to sit around and like talk about like, am I going to go out of business? Where's my money going to come from? And I feel that guilt of that as well, you know, because obviously I want the country to be healthy and I want to be healthy and I don't want to risk anybody else's life or my own during this. So I'm all for the shutdown, but you know, if we're going to step up, and I say we as in the restaurant and bar industry, if we're going to step up and close our shit down without any questions, no questions asked. Hey, close, you got it. We're done. That's going to make people sick. We're going to close.
Yeah.
If you aren't going to help us reopen, fuck, man, that we put a lot of trust into the people that told us to close.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's, you know, definitely something that people are are just not considered. And I don't think that it's a selfish feeling to have, you know, to be concerned about your livelihood. I mean, I always think about things in relative terms, you know, like this is what's directly affecting you right now, and it's okay to feel that way. You know, and I think that's what we need to kind of encourage a little bit more of. I mean, I know for myself today, I had like a rough day just because it was just like,
Yeah,
I
so
don't
glad.
like, I don't know, man. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. So, you know, and I hate to you know, to end anything on like a somber note like this. Like I should have finished with the goddamn Martin Denny Slayer question. You know, still figuring out how to do this, but I don't know. Does anybody else have any questions? You know, for Ed while we got him.
Hey, Drew. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Hi, Ed. Mark in Los Gatos. I work with Drew in Silicon Valley. Longtime Tiki person. I know Matt and a bunch of others on here. But on February 28th, in the middle of a road trip around the Midwest, I got to spend an evening at the Inferno Room.
Yes. Nice.
It was 5 of us. I think we did the better part of the menu, if not the whole menu. And picked up some mugs and
Sweet.
everything else. But
we have a group that bought a ton of mugs.
Awesome. We spent $500-600 there. I don't know. We spent a lot.
I think I remember your group because I remember there a group coming in from out of town. They bought like a stupid amount of merch, and we usually like sell a mug or two or maybe some like, you know, glassware, but I think I remember a group buying like 8 mugs and glassware and all kinds of stuff.
I was drunk asking for Trinidad sours at the end.
I love a Trinidad sour, man.
Yep. But and my buddy Dave Hansen did a lot of work for you.
Love Dave.
And I have a cousin in Noblesville that back in 2010, when I drove around the country going to tiki bars, I'd introduce him to the Maikai when he lived down there. And he's always sending me pictures of tiki bars where he's lived around the country. And they're never tiki bars. They're just like thatch places at best. And when he moved into Indianapolis area and sent a picture from Inferno Room, I was like, David, yes, that is a tiki bar. You really got it right. So on this trip, we got a chance to see it, and an amazing place you have there.
Awesome.
Thank you. Less drunk, I would have walked upstairs, but my girlfriend went up there, took some pictures. But it was as good as it gets. I mean, you did it right there. So.
It was a lot of work. I mean, we actually, while applying for all these loans and all this shit, we had to look up the paperwork when we established the LLC. And going back, we're like, holy crap. 2016 is when we actually like established the business. We didn't open until 18. So yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, it took all that time just because of that, putting everything up.
Great looking
every wall in that place. There's a reason you don't see 3,000 square foot tiki bars. It's a lot of work.
Awesome. The drinks are on spot. The service is on spot. All angles, the music, everything.
Thanks.
And most people don't get that. There's a lot of aspects to tiki. And
right. Yeah.
Out of all the tiki folks I know, I actually made it there before most of them. So.
That was the big thing, I guess, about Inferno that we were really insistent on, is that it couldn't just be about the cocktails, because we'd been to a bunch of those bars. They're like what I'm now kind of calling the modern wave or the new tiki bars. But yeah, they tend to be very cocktail focused, but they miss the art, they miss the music and all that. And we really wanted to push the art front and center. And we worked real close with Martin Kate to do that, he's the one that introduced us to Dave. We'd already like set out to like only work with Midwest artists, and at least for the opening, because we felt it was important to like kind of put that flag down and say like the Midwest isn't flyover country. And like Martin introduced us to Dave, and it was just immediately it clicked with him. You know, he's hard not to click with. He's he's a good dude. But yeah, it led us to down that path.
Yeah, no, Dave's a great guy, and that big mask there, that's amazing.
Oh,
of it, but seeing it in real life, it was like, wow.
Yeah, and I think he's actually going to top it in the expansion, whatever. We don't know what we're going to call it yet, but it's been
that big mask he just did. I know he just did a giant one. I saw
like 10 feet, I think.
Oh, it's massive. It's pretty cool looking. Awesome. Jesus. Well, look forward to checking it out again.
Well, I guess if there's one plus out of all this is that, there may not be a business at the end of it, but there'll be an additional dining bar.
We'll find you.
It's not an ideal time to expand.
Never guessed, but glad we made it there. We made it just in time.
We're not going anywhere. If I have to remortgage my house, we're not going anywhere for Inferno. That's for sure.
It's a great space. Keep it up.
Anybody else have any questions for Ed while we still got him?
Hey, Ed.
Yo.
What's the story with Shift Shrink? You gonna keep doing that, or are you just too busy doing other stuff?
No, that's my escape. I'm gonna keep doing it. It's fun. It's when, you know, I've long said that it's my escape, because when I hate even thinking about going to work, and I hate thinking about dealing with, you know, somebody that raises hell because we don't have, you know, their brand of vodka on the shelf or whatever. It's my reset button to like remember why I love what I do, you know? Like it's this like family, it's the people in the business, and it's the products, and it's all the geekiness and the educational aspect and all those things. It reminds me of that, you know. It's an opportunity to sit down and throw a microphone in front of people that probably wouldn't give me their time or give me the time of day, you know, if I didn't have a mic. But you put a microphone in front of people, you'd be surprised at who will talk to you, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I actually heard about Green Zone, you know, through Shift Drink. And then when I was
money, Chris, that's advertising, buddy.
Yeah, and so then at Jaguar Sun for the Rum Congress, or you know, whatever they're calling it now, I met Chris there, and I immediately brought up, I was like, dude, I heard you on Shift Drink, and it was just like, and we sell a lot of like Iraq out here in California. So I was like, dude, like it blows my mind that you're able to work with this stuff. And so you were the link between us with the Shift Drink podcast. And, you know, I absolutely, you know, I love it. And I'm excited to hear that, you know, that you still have that passion for it. 92 episodes in, like, that's good to hear.
I still think that Chris is running one of the best bars in the country. I mean, it's just, you know, you have those moments occasionally, and I have those moments occasionally on the show where it kind of recalibrates everything that I think I know. And that was one of them, you know. Actually, it's weirdly enough, like the two that probably had the most impact were like Middle Eastern like influence. It was Lior Sarkar's, the Israeli spice dude in New York, and then Chris. Just, you know, it's just a part of the world that Americans don't give enough attention to, except in a very fucking negative light. And so, you know, I really like what Chris is doing there. That's why I named that podcast episode kind of like a cocktail bar as protest, because it's not protesting necessarily, you know, the government or anything like that. It's just protesting the fucking like.
It is also.
You know, the whole like the perceptions and the like biases against anybody from the Middle East or anything like that. And so I don't know, man. He got my vote for Tails. So best new cocktail bar.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions?
Hey, Drew, I made my virtual background us drinking there at the Inferno Room.
There you go. At the Inferno Room. There's
Awesome.
There we are.
And just so you know, and like Mark's whole house is Tiki. So, you know, it's unreal. Like you walk into this space and you're just kind of like, what happened in here? You know,
this is pretty much all of my Tiki stuff in my house. Like I keep it all at work. I try to have that separation. So like I have my expensive mugs that like can't see the light of day because like I've got the crazy owl sea serpent back here that was like cost a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
My wife
Dude, that one's so dope.
So
Where's the Fez room?
What's that?
Where's the Fez room?
That I keep in my bedroom. I have like nice display shelf of all my Fezzes, and my rum is actually like right behind me over here. So those are my the closed in doors where nobody's allowed to touch shit.
As Drew said, Bamboo Ben built out my living room and I decorated it. So
Nice.
Yep.
So there's no white walls.
There are no white walls.
No. And that chair Mark is sitting in is insane.
That is.
It's a throne. It's a throne.
There's a bed because we Airbnb out this room, even though it's our living room. But we're not just.
That's beautiful, man. God.
So, all kinds of.
Yeah, I'm not gonna show the background here. It's not that cool.
Yeah, like Mark doesn't have a
Oh,
tiki bar in his house. Mark has 2 tiki bars in his house.
We have multiple, yes, and then a couple outside. I like rum and tiki.
Yeah, I don't mix drinks usually at home. Everything. I mean, tonight was the first time I've probably made a mixed drink in my house in like 6 months. Only because I knew that if I didn't mix drinks, I would probably likely be in a beach bum berry situation. You know, and so. But yeah, usually it's just neat spirits when I'm down here. We do tastings. We'll just kind of do impromptu tastings. But right before the quarantine, a friend of mine, actually kind of a bummer of a story. It's kind of shitty timing on this. My friend Kevin, he was going to be be on an episode as a guest. He was the Jameson dude for Indiana, and worked with Pernod and all that stuff. But anyway. We did kind of an impromptu sugarcane juice tasting. And at the next morning, I saw like the 17 bottles lying out. And I'm like, oh my God, did we taste 17 different rums last night? And he actually lost his job from a switch in distributorship 2 weeks ago. Like in the middle of the quarantine, they switched from one distributor to another. And like, he didn't even get laid off because of the quarantine. He got laid off because of a switch that they waited until now to announce. So yeah, it's kind of shitty.
Well, I think that, I always tell my friends that kind of in that situation, because, there's a shelf life for a lot of those positions, right? And it's, the cream rises, you're going to land with somebody good and solid soon. So, you just got to keep plugging away. I mean, it's probably a little bit more treacherous right now.
Just between like Southern and like Republic, and so that was what he got into the middle of. Actually, we were in Miami, gosh, in 2015, maybe 16, with Arthur, and Arthur worked for Republic, and he got the call while we were in Miami that they lost Bacardi. Yeah, and so he was not in a good mood for the rest of the day, Yeah, that we were like, well, I mean, you still could get like Don Q, but numbers wise, it was not a pleasant time.
The sexy new label. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, he told me the numbers at the time. I can't remember how much that cost Republic, just that one little switch, but it was insane. They ended up laying off a lot of people over that switch.
Yeah. Same thing happened in California, because I had a bunch of friends that were on the Bacardi team. And then when that announcement came on, they all lost their jobs, and so it's just a major bummer, when you see that many good people. And, like I said, but most of them landed on their feet. They got on with somebody else within the next couple months. And, we're kind of good to go again. So I'm
curious what business is going to look like at the end of this. Like, I mean, I'm not on that side of it. I've thought about it. Actually, I thought about it pretty seriously. Matt and I have talked about this at length as well. Like, I've thought about retirement plan, or not retirement, but like as I'm getting older and it's harder to work 14-hour days on my feet, maybe going into import or whatever. But man, I mean, with fewer restaurants, fewer bars, there's gonna be fewer importers, fewer products. I don't know. It's all the ancillary businesses around the restaurant business that I'm very curious of what's gonna happen now. What happens with linen companies, what happens with distribution, import, all that.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting for us. I mean, we work with a lot of esoteric brands and stuff, and to a certain degree, you're still seeing a lot of people kind of like buying the good stuff, right? Kind of like the apocalypse mentality, like, oh, I'm gonna drink the good stuff because this is the end, So like we're still doing okay. But on the flip side, we also have things like Charanda Urapen, and that's a small family-owned business that we care a lot about, that nobody's buying that right now, and we don't know what we're going to do.
I talked to Nico Palazzi last week, and Nico's been on the show before. He's a pretty good friend, and like, I mean, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say anything, but he pretty much bailed on New York immediately. His daughter, for those of you that don't listen to the show, and I'm not sure we've talked about it on Shift Drink, but his daughter has had several brain surgeries. She's epileptic, really bad shape. If she ends up with COVID, it'll be a death sentence. So they left. Like, I mean, he just literally left. He left PM Spirits to like all of the people that stayed, he left it to them until, and he told me until there's a vaccine. Like,
Wow.
and he told me he left without telling anybody. That's why I said, like, maybe I'm not supposed to say anything. But he was like, yeah, I didn't tell anybody. He's like, I just left.
I heard that
But,
from.
and I don't think anybody would fault him for that, because fuck. I mean, his daughter's in a really, really bad situation there on that. And so in the best of times, it's hard for her. And for this, it would be fatal.
Yeah, that's just so shitty. And you know, you really gotta have to start weighing it out. I mean, and I know that's something that I struggle with every day too. Not to that extent, right? Where like, you know, my daughter's not at risk, but she is small, you know, and she's young. And it's like, you know, I don't feel necessarily confident going out and visiting liquor stores and stuff like that. And I'm trying to do as much as possible, like via email and text and stuff like that.
Your
And
post today when you talked about the uncertainty or uncertainty of everything, and I think that's what it is, right? I mean, they change the rules every 24 hours, right? Like,
yeah,
only old people get this. Well, I mean, maybe not only old people, maybe young people too. Maybe if you have pre-existing conditions, maybe if you're, and then you start seeing like the death of people that are like my age and in my health, you know, like healthy guys that, you know, I'm not a track runner, but fuck, you know, and when you start seeing that, you're like, well, what are they not telling us? And, you know, I'm not saying it's like 5G related, but, yeah. But you know, it's scary, you know, when you start to see just kind of like how little we really know about this. And yeah, like, because tomorrow they might say, yeah, your daughter's susceptible. And, you know, I mean, a month and a half ago, they were just saying,
yeah,
don't have too much contact, you know, now
Right.
it's, you know, everybody is really at risk.
yeah,
And I think the risk now is like, I can't say I'm not in that boat. The risk now is that now that we're a month into this, and maybe everybody on here could chime in and speak to this, but I feel like it's kind of, it's starting to normalize. We're starting to get used to this, and you're starting to get used to your routines. And I'm starting to get into habits where like, I've kind of forgotten the threat a little bit, you know, because it's just every day becomes the same and the same. Not that I've like, I'm not gonna say I've forgotten about the virus, but it's like all of the other worries about everyday life have kind of like left the reason that we're here behind. You know, I don't know, just like the new normal of constant sanitation. It's going to be crazy, man, the way that we come out of this. That's why, you know, the closeness of restaurants and bars is a little bit scary, because I don't know what we're going to see at the end of this. That kind of goes back to that loan situation where, you know, you have till like the end of June, but fuck, who knows where we're going to be in June? You know, I don't think everybody's going to be beating down the door to like sit into Chris's bar as a perfect example. You like how I'm pointing to like where on my screen he is, but I don't know if it's on everybody else's screen over
he's
there.
definitely over here for me. So, so like the Brady Bunch is all fucked up right now. Like you're pointing at all the wrong people.
But I mean, that's a tight bar, right? Like, I mean, if he's at capacity, there's no fucking way I'm going in there. And so that's going to be the reality that we're going to have to be facing when this is all finished. It's like, you know, maybe we have the all clear and go ahead and go out and have fun, but you know, the personal feelings and about that are going to be quite different, I think, than where we were. And
yeah. I think the general public is going to be a lot slower on the uptake, and I totally understand where you're coming from on just like the kind of like the normalcy to it. Like I try to put myself into a routine to a certain degree just to try to like feel better about stuff,
right.
You know, and now that routine is just kind of like, well, this is how I do this day. This is what I know I'm going to have to deal with, you know, this day. And
it's kind of dangerous, you know, because it's like we've accepted that this is the way things are, and you know, maybe we're not as vigilant about things as we were at least 2 weeks ago. You know, the fear is important. And I'm in the same boat as where I kind of got in 2017 with Trump, where it's like he won. Like he was on my TV so much about like dumbass shit that he was saying that I just kind of numbed out and just stopped watching the news. which was kind of the goal, right? Like, I mean, that's exactly the point. And so, I mean, I'm kind of in that boat now, and I'm a news junkie. I got my journalism degree right in the middle of 9/11 and fucking DC snipers and, all that shit in the Iraq War. So, it was like that 24-hour news constantly around in my house. And my wife is definitely a news junkie as well. And so, like, I've gotten so tired of hearing it, between Thai news and American news, that I just want silence in my house. I don't want to know what's going on. I don't want to know how many people died. I'm tired of hearing it. And that's where I think the danger is the exhaustion and the fatigue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could only recommend you picking yourself up a Star Wars Lego set and just putting on some music and just doing that for, I mean, I think it took me like 3.5 hours, and I felt much better after.
Star Wars Tiki hugs, man. Tiki people love them.
Oh God. Yeah. Well, Ed, I really do appreciate this, man. I think this was even better than I ever could have expected. Like I said, I've been a fan for a very long time, and I know we've been digital friends for a long time via the Facebooks. And I was excited to do this, and I hope that everybody that was on the call tonight, and so you see people kind of drop in and out, that we all got a little bit of escapism from all that stuff. I know we kind of got back into it at the end, but hopefully people enjoyed the conversation tonight, and we got a bunch more fun ones planned for the rest of the month.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in on those, man. You have some real cool people coming on.
I got lucky, man. And like I said, like or Matt said, nobody's doing anything better. So yeah. So yeah, check those out. And then God, I hope this doesn't go into too far into May, but if it does, Chris, you can expect me to hit you up and probably have you on as a guest. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Like I said, tomorrow is going to be sugarcane distillate, so we're going to have Ron Dahl, Antoine Nixon, and
Antoine's on. What about that?
Yeah, and we got the guys from Kohana Rum as well. So that'll be a fun discussion. And then we have some cool things going the rest of the month. So check it out if you can. But ultimately, stay safe out there, stay sane. Keep drinking those good cocktails, and we'll see you guys hopefully soon.
Thanks, man.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.